Yesterday we discussed the subject of the impurities or imperfections of insight. We call this name impurities instead of impediments. So impurities or imperfections of insight, Vipassana, that is a name for it. When one reaches the stage of the tender stage of Uriyavya Jnana. So how many causes are responsible for this arising of impurities of insight, which are of 10 in number? Since the yogis are going to continue the practice after this retreat, it is necessary for them, and also when they are sharing with others, it is necessary for them to be able to practice in accordance with the text. Therefore, today we shall discuss in detail how this Vipassana impurities or imperfections of insight arise. Out of these 10 impurities of insight, the first one, or bhasa, illuminations, arise due to samadhi or vipassana jnana. These are the two causes in brief. So this abhasa is has its cause in samadhi and vipassana jnana. These are the two causes. And for those who practice samatha, tranquility meditation, in the course of their practice of this meditation, such as recollection of the qualities of Buddha, Dhamma or Sangha, or the meditation of loving kindness, metta, and other things, and also in the meditation of the kasina conceptual objects. This is the practice of samatha, tranquility meditation. As the signs, nimittas arise, then in such yogis, this illumination can arise in the course of the practice. And also as for the satipatthana yogis, when they are noting in order to catch up with these ever-arising mind-body objects, in the beginning they cannot note very fast, in a fast way, so they will not be able to discern mind and body as yet. But as in the course of their practice, as they become free from the hindrances, nivranas, and insight knowledge is arising in the yogis, even in a small way, this illumination can occur. So this illumination is caused by just samadhi. In the yogi notes, in the practice of satipatthana, before they cultivate any insight, by just being able to note, to be continuous in their mindfulness, and with the purity of the mind, they are able to see these illuminations in an extraordinary manner. So when such yogis are asked about their previous situation or previous practice, and they said that when they were young, since their young days, they have sustained sila, a moral practice, so that they have been morally pure since their young days. Therefore, before they are able to gain insight, such as the discernment of mind and body, just in the beginning of the practice, they are able to see these illuminations before they gain any insight. Therefore, this kind of illumination is due to just samadhi. So in this regard, we would like to discuss about the story of Anapana, the Buddha's main supporter in brief. At one time, Anapana visited his friend on business who was living in Rajagha, some distance away from his place, Savatthi. And at that place, at his friend's place, he heard about the Buddha's enlightenment. So at once he had this idea, he had the desire to see the Buddha. But since it was night time, he didn't have a chance to do so, so he waited till dawn. And when he went to bed, he just recollected as Buddha, Buddha. In those days, everybody spoke Pali. So when somebody recollected or spoke as Buddha, Buddha, everybody understood. There's nothing unusual. Understood as the knower, or the awakened, or the enlightened. So this is all that people understood. Nothing unusual. Of course, it is a way of recollecting the qualities of the Buddha, Buddha Nusati Bhavana. So when he went to bed like this, and 3 times he woke up. Every time he woke up, as a result of this recollection of the Buddha, he saw these illuminations. And so he thought that the illumination was very bright, it shone very bright. So he thought that the dawn had come. But when he investigated, when he found out that it was not dawn as yet, it was just illumination. So he went back to bed 1 time, 2 times, and the 3rd time, as a result of this Buddha Nusati Bhavana, there was illumination again, and he thought it was already dawn. So he made his way alone to the Buddha. In this way, he made his way to the Buddha alone, and when the Buddha's monastery was out of the town, the city limits, and there was cemetery, graveyard between the city and the Buddha's monastery. And in those days, they threw just dead bodies without cremating or burying. And that was the practice of those days. And he stumbled against these dead bodies in the darkness of night, and he got very frightened. And in this way, his mind was distracted because of his fright or fear. At that time, his recollection of the Buddha became weak, and so was the illumination. Illumination actually disappeared, leaving him in total darkness. So he thought about returning home. At that, this guardian spirit was guarding the cemetery and gave him encouragement. Now here what we want to find out is, although one has not seen Buddha, but just hearing the news, one becomes overjoyed and recollect the quality, just one quality as Buddha, knower or awakened. Just recollecting this, just saying these phrases, or just words, just one word. And by the power of this Buddha's quality, being free from nirvanas, hindrances, the mind becomes very clear. And with the power of this Buddha Nusati, illuminations arose. So, they thinking that it was dawn, but still it was dark, it was night time. So he got afraid. Because he got afraid, he became distracted, he lost his concentration, so that illuminations disappeared, leaving him in darkness. So illuminations can arise as a result of samatha or concentration samadhi, which happened in those days as much as it also happens nowadays. And the way this guardian spirit gave encouragement was in those classical times. May sound funny nowadays, if you think nowadays. the way the guardian spirit encouraged was that even if one has 100,000 horses, in those days horses and elephants were the real assets, like the vehicles, motor cars nowadays, or even aeroplanes. So in those days, these horses and 100,000 horses, even 100,000 horses, or 100,000 elephants, or 100,000 chariots, or 100,000 damsels wearing precious jewels cannot match 1/16th part of a step which this gentleman Anapana is doing, stepping. That means this step, just one step towards this pilgrimage, you might call, going to meet the Buddha, is such valuable. So, how about nowadays, if a guardian spirit like that gave some encouragement, would you take 100,000 motor vehicles, the best of motor vehicles, 100,000 planes or helicopters, and 100,000 damsels, with the latest dress from America? Or would you just take one step? And if the guardian spirit says, "Oh, it won't even match 1/16 of your step going to the Buddha," which way would you follow? That may be a question. Of course, in those classical times, the best you can get is the elephants for normal speed and the horses for fast speed, and nothing mechanized things, no mechanized vehicles. So in this way, the millionaire was encouraged by this guardian spirit. Just go, continue your journey, don't turn back. At that, the millionaire thought at first that he was alone, but now he had companion, so he became encouraged. With that encouragement, his Buddha nosati, recollection of the Buddha, returned. So was his illumination, till he reached the Buddha. So in this way, as he went across the cemetery, stumbling against these dead bodies, sometimes he was scared. When he was scared, he lost his concentration, and then illumination disappeared in total darkness again. And the guardian spirit gave encouragement, so he became encouraged, illuminations again, and he proceeded the journey. Then he got frightened when he stumbled against these dead bodies, and so on. This happened 3 times until the last time he got to the Buddha safe and sound. This story is just to explain or prove that illuminations can arise just with the deepening of samadhi, just to believe that. And with the practice of Buddha nosati, which is samatha meditation or samadhi meditation, one can gain this, one can see these illuminations. Now, with the practice of satipatthana, before one gain insight, or in the beginning of insight, illuminations can arise. This we should discuss. As for Vipassana yogis, from the time they cultivate this namarupa paricheda jnana, knowledge of the discernment of mind and body, or the definition of mind and body, one may be able to see these illuminations, flashes in the nature of flashes of illuminations. And for those who have had this moral discipline before they came to the retreat, and as beginning of the practice, being free from nivaranas, once they are free from nivaranas, they are able to see these illuminations. This is the result of samadhi. at the beginning of seeing this mind-body, one may see this illumination like the twinkling of flashes of stars or some radiant light, things like that. This is the dawning of the sasana light, the light of sasana. Later, with the cultivation of this knowledge known as Paccaya Parigga Jnana, knowledge of the definition of cause and condition, or conditionality of mind-body, or cause and effect process, at that stage, at the beginning of this insight knowledge, some may see these illuminations in the form of multi-colors, green, red, blue, yellow, or something like, these sparks of light that you sometimes just flash out. I forgot the name of it. Anyway, splashes of light can happen like fireworks. This is the dawning of the second light of sasana. At that stage, one sees the illuminations. That is the cultivation of this knowledge of conditionality. So this we have to decide, we have to conclude that this kind of illumination is a result of samadhi, not yet the vipassana or insight knowledge. Before one attains this insight knowledge, seeing the three parts, the characteristics, that is genesis, aging and dissolution. Before one sees that, that means before one cultivates vipassana jnana, one sees the illumination. That means this illumination is the result of samadhi, in this case vipassana samadhi, and not yet panya. So at this stage of these two insight knowledge, what we call it insight knowledge, actually they are not the real one. As a result of samadhi, one may see the forms or appearances of the Buddha or the Arahants. This is from the beginning of the first light of sasana, that is discernment of mind and body, nama rupa pariccheda jnana. And this also is a result of samadhi. From the stage of samasana jnana, knowledge of reflection as impermanent and so on, and the three in terms of three characteristics, that is knowledge of reflection, samasana jnana. One sees several nimitta signs, and at the tender stage of uryavya jnana, one also sees such signs. Later, in the course of the practice, gaining momentum, one sees the kind of illuminations as we have discussed earlier. So the objects, the nature of objects that one encounters at this insight knowledge are different. At the time of the first light of sasana, that is knowledge of discernment of mind and body, that this is the mind, this is the body. Namarupa pariccheda jnana, as a result of the samadhi, some signs arise, or some phenomena, characteristics are seen. That is, one sees only the beginning, but not the end as yet. In the second light of sasana, at the Paccaya Parigga Jnana, knowledge of the discernment of conditions, cause and conditions, one sees the beginning, but not yet the end. So, in the first light of sasana, one sees the middle. Out of three parts, beginning, middle and end, one sees the middle part, which is most prominent, most obvious. So one sees the middle part of that object, noted. In the second light of sasana, one sees the beginning, but not yet the last. Or one sees the beginning and the middle, and not yet the last, or the dissolution. At this stage, at the flash of this light, the flash of this object, when the object arises at once, one sees the beginning of the object. It's quite obvious, but not the end. Before one sees the end or dissolution, before it disappears, another object arises and one goes on to note that new object. One's knowing mind jumps to the new object, so that one does not see the end of the original object, because one is noting ever new object, so that one misses the end of the old object noted. At the beginning of this insight knowledge, that is the third light of sasana, at the insight knowledge of samasana jnana, knowledge of reflection, one sees all the three parts of the object noted. That is the genesis, at the beginning, aging, the middle, and the dissolution, the end. All the three parts of the object are obvious to the yogi. So as the object arises, one notes as seeing, or hearing, whatever, and one sees the beginning and the end. Then another object arises, one sees the beginning, and then also the end, of course the middle as well. So in this way, one sees all the three parts of that object at this stage. That means samasana jnana, or the third light of sasana. After one has seen this object, which is noted very obviously, the beginning, middle, and the end. Now this object, will disappear by mutation, that is moving from one place to another. It moves and fades away, or it slowly becomes weak and small and then disappears, or it slowly fades and then disappears. So it moves and disappears, or it becomes small and disappears, or it fades and disappears, like the clouds being driven by the wind, blown by the wind. It slowly disappears or moves and disappears. At the stage of this udiyabhya jnana, first arising and passing away of objects noted, udiyabhya jnana, what is obvious is that when one notes, by just noting, the object disappears. So in this way, batch by batch, the objects are noted and noted away, or noted off. They disappear. So sometimes without noting, without purposely noting it or paying attention, just by knowing alone, objects are known and disappear. Unlike the previous insight stage, it disappears at the very place noted, not just mutation, not changing the place, moving to another place or becoming smaller, but it disappears at once. No sooner has it arisen, it is gone. So in this way, one sees such phenomena very obviously. But one does not see the middle part of that object very clearly. One sees only the arising and dissolving. The object arises and then it disappears. Vaya and Pali. So only these two things are obvious, the arising and passing away. So in this way, these are the differences among these insight stages. At this three insight knowledge, that is discernment of mind and body, nama rupa paricchetta jnana, discernment of conditions, paccaya parikha jnana, and knowledge of reflection of the characteristics, samasana jnana, the three insight stages. At this stage, one gains some piti, joy or rapturous feeling, passaddhi, tranquility or calmness, sukha, bliss, and also saddha to some extent. Of course, these arise not as a result of insight, but the result of samadhi. Especially at the stage of this samasana jnana, knowledge of reflection of these characteristics, these sensations, vedana, are unbearable sensations, of course, not comfortable ones. Very rarely you get comfortable ones. But mostly unbearable sensations, pains, aches and all that sort of thing, burning, pressure. All these are bound to arise at this stage. And because they are unbearable, the yogi just notes them and note such feelings with gritted teeth or gritted teeth, with great determination. And before one can deepen one's concentration, one thinks that this vedana feeling or sensations, unbearable pain is really very heavy and very unbearable, big burden. Because of this samadhi, one thinks even a small pain as big and unbearable. Just like when you see small things in a microscope, these small things become enlarged and become more obvious. So also with the practice, these slight sensation of pain may become enlarged as a result of samadhi, which is like a microscope. So if you just note with perseverance, then with the power of sati samadhi, one will be able to overcome this vedana sensations at last. No more unbearable sensations. One feels comfortable. When one is experiencing this unbearable sensation, one feels like one is shouldering a very heavy burden. Sometimes choking, one's breath may be choking, and sweating like anything, feeling very painful. But when one overcomes this unbearable sensation, like, putting down this load from your shoulder, you feel very light and comfortable, relieved. So also you feel relieved once you overcome this unbearable sensations, or the unbearable sensations just disappear. You feel very comfortable, light and blissful, and this is the result of samadhi. So as is said by the Buddha, as the yogis experience painful sensation, and the yogis practice mindfulness with perseverance and great determination, and once the yogis are able to overcome these vedana sensations, it is like being relieved from this big burden. One feels very light and clear and relieved and cool and blissful, peaceful, comfortable, and this is the result of samadhi. So at these three insight stages, discernment of mind and body, discernment of conditions, and knowledge of reflections, all these things like piti, passaddhi and all that which arise are the result of samadhi. At this stage, the sukha, delightful feeling or happiness, becomes very obvious. In the body, originally there was dukkha, painful sensations. This is called titi dukkha. As a result of physical unbearable sensations, one feels very uncomfortable, feeling very unbearable mentally. That is called titi dukkha. When one connects with the object and deepen concentration, just deepen one's concentration on the object, especially seeing this sensation, Vedana, just a sensation as such. Just a sensation as such, on the limited area. Then, with the power of the samadhi, the Vedana ceases, it disappears at once, comes to cessation, leading to delight, fulfilling and happiness, vibrinama sukha, happiness due to change from titi dukkha, change from unbearable sensation to a very comfortable feeling. This is very obvious change, not like before, that means not like when one was suffering, this titi dukkha. So at first one thought that one would never be able to overcome this painful sensation, but with perseverance and determination, I am able to overcome this at last. So you feel delighted, your mind becomes very clear, giving rise to saddha, faith and confidence, that with perseverance and determination one can overcome anything. So delightful and happy with saddha, faith, joyful faith, one becomes very courageous. That is what the virya means. Virya means heroic energy. One becomes courageous because one has won the battle, so to speak. One is now wanting to even challenge any situation. Let the pain come, I will note it and overcome, that sort of thing. At this stage, this Lona Virya, they are synonymous. The heroic energy becomes very wakeful, energetic and alert, so that both mind and body becomes fresh and light. Especially the mind becomes very fresh and alert and active, as though one experiences a transformation of one's life. So whenever the objects arise, as they arise and pass away, one is able to catch these objects or catch up with these objects so as not to miss them every time they arise. So at this stage, that is, as one is catching up with the fast arising and passing away and being able to connect with every object that arises. At this stage, these illuminations, bright illuminations tend to arise in one's vision. And such an illumination is a result of Vipassana jnana. At this stage, for some people, for some yogis, the illuminations are only slight, and it comes up momentarily and disappears, like the flashlight or torchlight. Or sometimes sees the ball of this light like this alms bowl, or the tray, like a tray rotating in a circle. At this insight stage, for some yogis, when they are sitting or practicing in a room, they may see that room full of light. The whole room is illuminated, or even beyond, and for a long time. And even if one notes, such illuminations may not disappear. Sometimes even without noting, even one is even reflecting, just reflecting without being mindful, the illuminations may still persist. Like this searchlight, or the vehicle headlights, or the light of the moon coming out from the darkness of the clouds, dark clouds, or even the sun. Some even report that these illuminations, lights, come up from the body, they radiate from the body, from their bodies. Or sometimes these illuminations come up from the sides of the bodies, or from the top, or from the bottom, all sorts. In this way, they tend to report. Sometimes this illumination, due to this light or illumination, the objects in your room or house may be seen, and you know where things are, and like in the daytime, if it's night, like in the daytime. Or even if it's in the daytime, it will be more obvious. Or things which cannot be seen by ordinary eyes, such as things in the space, in the open space, or from a distance, may be seen as though such objects are just in front of you. Some yogis would ask whether they see with their own natural eyes, or they see from their mind, mano vijnana, consciousness, or even deva chakku, this is divine eye. Actually, it is seen from the mano vijnana, from the mind or consciousness. So you see these things as though you are seeing with your own eyes in a normal way. But this can only be verified with your own practice, and believe it. Since you all have practiced mostly over 1 or 2 months, so he thinks that by this time yogis must have experienced such things, such phenomena. One may think very highly of oneself at this stage. For some people, that since one's mind is inclined towards the realization of the path knowledge, by seeing these illuminations in a very extraordinary manner, one thinks that one has reached the goal. Though one does not think that this is the final goal, one may become attached unconsciously to this phenomena. So such people may disrupt their own practice, mindfulness. So although they note, these objects may not become so obvious and pure like before. This phenomena is known as stagnation within, because one sees this illumination either thinking that this is gaining, liberating insight, or even one does not think so, one becomes unconsciously attached and not progress in the practice. Hence, this illumination is known as Vipassana impurities or imperfections of insight. So this Vipassana the impurities or imperfection in insight, is none other than this illumination, getting attached to this illumination, stagnating within. That itself becomes impurity or imperfection of insight. Thinking that this is the real goal. And also, not only that, one thinks highly of this and even takes pride that I have achieved this. I don't think other yogis have achieved that. Or even the teachers might have achieved that. I think it is only I, that sort of I, many I's. So at this stage, one thinks very highly of oneself, becomes very proud, very conceited. And in this way, distorted thoughts, mistaken thoughts, and sometimes thinking that taking this illumination as self or soul, or some living entity. This is clinging to views, view clinging, and becoming attached to this light, illumination. This is sensuous clinging. So in this way, the two clingings arise. Daithi, Tanha, and Mana, these three multiplications, diffusions. They tend to diffuse oneself. These three kilesas can arise. Instead of having kusala, become akusala. This is a danger. So this kind of mana, pride, conceit that this kind of phenomena only arises in me and nobody else. This is the real liberating insight. And because I gain this liberating insight, I see this extraordinary phenomena, and so on. In this way, one have this mistaken view, mistaken thoughts, and then go on to think that one illumination, one path. Another illumination, another path. Third illumination, fourth illumination, become arahant. Becomes the highest stage of holiness. So as a result of that, one jumps to this extreme holiness. Such people exist not only here, but it may exist here and elsewhere. So one has to be very careful at this stage, especially for those who have no textual knowledge, or even one has some textual knowledge, one is not thorough in the textual knowledge, scriptural knowledge, or one does not approach the reliable spiritual teachers, guides. Then one is bound to be misled in this way. Therefore, these illuminations can arise as a result of samadhi, and also when one sees the first arising and passing away also, these illuminations can arise. And if one mistakes this for the liberating insight, then one is said to be stagnating within. Not only stagnating, thinking that this is liberating insight, then thinking that, oh, I've done what needs to be done. I've accomplished. So one has to be very careful not to stagnate there, but to note and progress so as not to allow this tanha deity to arise. As soon as illuminations arise, just note as seeing. And when one becomes mindful and fully aware of the nature of this illumination, such as arising and passing away, then one knows the truth. Once one knows the truth, one will be free of mana. So one has got to note until one overcomes this stage, mana. That's why it is said that attachment should be noted and overcome, and one should continue to practice to progress whatever arises. In this way, the yogi will not stagnate within. Instead, he or she will progress and be on the right path. Buddha has given the two admonishments, two guidance, namely, not to go out. That means going out. That means the mind is distracting. Not to go out. Going out is not good, so we have to prevent the mind from going out. Nor to stagnate within. Stagnating within also is not good, so we have to prevent that. So, what is this? What is not going out, not going without, not going out, not going outside? One tends to fantasize or think, remember these objects already encountered previously. What has been seen or heard comes back to one's mind, is known as going out, the mind going out, or distraction. So, if one has to note at the moment of arising so that the mind will not go out, there will be no distraction. If the mind is distracted, then one is said to be invaded or attacked by kilesas. So mindfulness can prevent that. So purifying the mind and cultivating insight through the stages, trying to catch up with this fleeting momentary nature of experience, and at this stage of insight, illuminations may arise. But not to think highly of these phenomena, thinking that one has gained insight or one has reached the realization. not become attached, tanha, and not to take pride, mana, and not to have mistaken view, ditthi. So try to overcome these three things, tanha, mana, ditthi, not to stagnate within. One has got to note. And if noting is good, if the visions are good and pleasurable, and not to get attached. If one gets attached, this is stagnating within. So however much these things are pleasurable or attractive, one should go on noting until one reaches the final goal. Because in the transit, one is bound to encounter all these phenomena. So however much they are good and attractive, one should note so as to progress. So instead of getting attached, one should note and progress. That is what the Buddha admonished. So these two things again, not to let the mind go out, nor stagnate within. One should note, then one will be on the right path of Vipassana. So the time is up. The remaining impurities of insight will be continued tomorrow. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Tomorrow. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Tomorrow. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Tomorrow.